Alrighty. Welcome back to another episode of The Yarn. Ooh, try time for Manly.
Yo,
Ooh, we're currently watching round one of the NRL, Vegas, Manly South. We've actually recorded a episode. I was gonna say the Better Project,
Yeah.
but we recorded an episode of Behind the Brand where I was actually the guest today. And now this is The Yarn. Man, what's been happening? What are we going to talk about today?
I think the first thing I wanted to do is say thank you for jumping on board. Pretty much a bit of context. Our next special guest that was meant to jump on had a last minute cancellation. And the first thing I thought to myself was, bro, like, I don't want to use it as an excuse to not do it. Funny enough, I used to do that back in the days when I was doing a bad podcast show. I'd be like, oh, I'll use it as an excuse to not jump on. And so what I did was actually reach out to you late last night, and I said, hey, bro, would you be keen to jump on? Even though we're co-hosts, like, I generally wanted to get a deeper understanding of, like, how things been going on with you. Yes, I've been a part of the journey along the way. I know what's been going on, but didn't really have an opportunity to, I guess, piece it out together. And so we done that. We done the podcast episode, and I wanted to ask on your end, bro, how was it being on the other side? Well, two questions. I want to do like a 1A, 1B. The first question I want to ask was, how was your experience being on the other side? But then another question on top of that was, how was your experience being interviewed by me?
First of all, I feel a lot more comfortable on this side now.
Yeah.
Well, I got my chair back.
You're on the other side here, and like you were commenting about the backdrop and stuff.
Even the backdrop of the chair. I don't know why, but I feel so much more comfortable in this chair, even though they're the same chairs. But hey.
Actually, this feels like my chair. Because I usually sit in this chair.
It was different because every time I step into the studio, I'm on this side. But as what I said in that podcast, I think it's a great opportunity for myself, especially with the focus of mine on communication and the way that I'm articulating myself and my story and my message. So for the opportunity to do that was great. And I've said this time and time again, you are a natural at what you do. Like, you're a natural conversationalist. So it came easy. And I think because we know each other, we know what we're like, it just made the conversation flow a lot easier. So yeah, I really enjoyed that process. And I think it's something that we can, well, obviously we got the yarn, but down the track, there's going to be times where we'll sit and we'll have a deeper conversation from time to time when, for example, guests pull out, because that's the reality of podcasting. You can have the schedule, you can have all these guests lined up, but the reality is there's going to be times where guests pull out. And it's funnily enough, you had a guest pull out. I also had a guest pull out.
For the Better Project.
Yeah, I was meant to do a podcast this morning too, and my guest said, no, I'm not feeling well. I'm feeling sick. Can't do it today. So it's actually lined up really well because, yes, we're going to drop this on Behind the Brand, but I'm going to use the same episode for the Better Project too. So, yeah, it all happened, and it was a really good conversation. How'd you find it?
Well, obviously, it's funny. You end up asking me, like, oh, did you prepare for it, or are you just going to wing it out? And for me, I did mention it to you, like, I've got it, like, I've got the certain structure that we follow. But I was actually grateful enough that I had the structure in place, because that's the one thing I can always fall back on. And I always bring it back to James Clear when he says, you do not rise on the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And that's the system that I always fall back on. And that was like my guideline that I could use. And then everything else I kind of just winged out. So the way that I found it was, it was very different. I think about us, like, just the dynamics that we have together. We've done a lot of work together. And the fact that we're able to have this conversation and actually treat it like a podcast and not try to treat it like we're just having a normal conversation like this. It made my job as a host more easier. But even that too, you allowing yourself to be, or to choose the humble route and say, you know what, I'm going to allow Josh to do his thing. Because let's be honest, like you could have by any shape or form say to yourself, okay, I know what to do. You know, I'm going to put the hosting cap on. You didn't allow your pride and your ego to take control, and so by that I want to say thank you. Like, thank you for that. I appreciate it, bro.
Grateful.
Yeah, but overall, bro, it was hectic. I think it was an hour and 20.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was an hour
actually
and 20.
went quick too.
Yeah, and it was actually the first time I was able to write notes. I think the last time I wanted to, the last, like, guess with Michael, I wanted to write notes, but I, funny enough, I forgot a pen. That's the only thing. But I actually wrote notes, and it's like pretty much a page full about you, and I want to do that with other like special guests too. Like, just write notes and actually listen to the conversation and write, you know, what I'm actually getting out of it. So, yeah, that's how I found it. Grateful.
I think the important lesson from all this is being able to adapt when things don't go to plan.
Yeah.
And having a plan B, even though it was a last minute plan B, but still having something in place that we can fall back on. And now we know in the future, if guests fall through, we can just record an episode together.
Yeah.
Like, we have plenty to talk about. Every time we jump on the phone, it's like a minimum hour conversation.
Yeah.
So we just put that into this podcast. Happy days, right? So yeah, being able to have that backup that we can fall back on when shit kind of hits the fan from time to time, and that's a part of the journey, right?
Yeah, and I think it also brings an identity behind the brand, and that we don't utilize excuses. We don't find a way out to get out of adding value to the consumers. Because that was the first thing I was thinking about was the people. I'm like, man, like I'm not thinking about the people now. Well, I'm not just thinking about the people now. I'm thinking about the people in the 30th, the 50th, the 70th episode, where they're going to be looking at it being like, bro, these guys are so consistent. And it's like, yeah, there was actually a time in episode 5, there was a time in episode 13, there was a time in episode 30 where things didn't go to plan. But we found a way to, you know, still keep consistent. So, yeah, I was very grateful for today. Grateful that you actually came out on board and, you know, still wanted to do the podcast. You could have said no. You know, you could have said, oh, no, it's all right, I won't do it. And then we would have, you know, fallen into the path of doing everything last minute. But you pulled through, bro. So can't be grateful enough, man.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
That's it. What else you want to talk about? Like, you've written a whole bunch of notes.
Yes, I did.
You're just like, we're doing the yarn. I'm like, you know what, you can direct this week. Even though I meant to direct it, but I feel like you got a lot to say.
I actually do. And I think, well, I just want to put preface to the yarn. Like, the whole purpose of the yarn session is the fact that you have a part to play in the behind the brand, but it also gives me an outlet, like when it comes to being a host and I guess going behind, not just behind the brand, like you mentioned in the last episode, which is like behind the brand, like we're going out there and we're having conversations with business owners and stuff, but it's like, this is our outlet, you know, to have that conversation. So I just wanted to bring it out there that although, yeah, you are the host of it, that we can, you know, mix and mingle. That's why this is our show.
Yeah.
This is our yarn. But I guess one thing I did want to like touch base on is I actually wanted to go through a bit of like the analytical side of how we're doing. And so pretty much for those out there that don't know, the way that it works out in terms of the behind the scenes stuff is that Nicky does all the long form content. He does all the cutting up, the long form, and then I focus mainly on the social media, like the Instagram, the TikTok, and doing more short form, real like videos. And I think it's helped you out to just have that as like that's your main thing to do because you have your own podcast, and for you to kind of juggle all that. That's what I was trying to do. Like when me and Nick had that conversation of like who's gonna do what, I was okay doing that. Like I was okay doing the short form. I was okay doing the social media reels. Plus, it links towards what I'm doing with my business. Like I'm working with business owners within TKV and small and doing the short reels and stuff. So it all encompasses together. But yeah, I just wanted to have a conversation about analytics. So on Instagram, I think we're at 160 like followers right now. And you want to have a look at it?
Yeah, I was
Yeah, have a look at it. I think we're roughly at 160 last time I seen it, or 150 ish. And one thing I did want to mention is that majority of the Instagram followers are from two things. Number one being the reels that we're posting out.
171.
Oh, 171 now. We're at 171 now.
Yeah.
And with the followers, I've noticed two things. Number one, they're coming from the actual special guest. And number two, they're coming strictly from reels. And if you look at our content, it's just strictly reels.
Yeah.
That's all we're posting. So there's no photos. There's no like carousels. It's just strictly reels. And yeah, majority of the followers are coming through there. Was there anything else you wanted to add on?
There's a couple that are actually doing pretty well.
Yeah,
15K, 12K, 10K. Most of them are over 1,000. So for a brand new page, only a couple of episodes in, for me personally, I think we're doing well.
Yeah.
So just like anything that we do, it's just playing the long game.
Yeah, hard.
And the more content we put out, the more that we're going to grow. Like the fact that we were, I think last time you came, we were under 100 or something. So to gain that following, and then I had a quick look at like the YouTube and stuff, and the viewership on the videos is doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Like for a brand new podcast, like it's not in the thousands,
Yeah.
but like considering, for example, where I started, when I'd maybe get 10 people, we're like 100 odd on some of the videos. So it's doing pretty good, man.
Yeah. And I think, and I've mentioned it too, like I was looking at what we're currently doing well. There's no point focusing on the things that we are doing well. Like looking, not necessarily the positives, but looking at the things, the wins per se. And I've noticed that the reels that we're creating, I think the ones, if you look at the ones that are doing really well, they all have one thing in common. And that one thing is emotional connection. Like I looked at Drew's one, I even looked at Michael's one, and the ones that they're doing well in, like respectively, have some sort of emotional attachment to it, to the point where like the viewers can the viewers can connect with.
Yeah, you want to cause an emotional response.
Yeah, and I think it's both positive and negative, but it's definitely a positive thing that they like the positive message that's coming out. So that's definitely something that we're doing well in, and it's something that I'm gonna continue doing in terms of like pulling out the reels. What's been your thoughts in terms of the reels? Because I know that because you do the Better Project stuff, like with the behind the brand and how the reels are being shaped and formed. Like, what's been your take on that?
It's interesting to see because you're using AI to do.
Yeah, so I've actually mentioned it down. Like, I'm not going to be like safekeeping it. I'm going to be like, that's the whole point of the yarn session is like giving the extra value. But I'm using Opus Clips like for that. So yeah.
Yeah, so when I do my podcast, I obviously go through the whole episode and do it all myself because AI doesn't have a mind. It doesn't understand the content that you want. But we decided with Behind the Brand we wanted to experiment because this is just like a little passion project that we're working on. We've got other businesses, we've got other things in our life. So we don't want to be spending hours on hours on social media clips. We wanted to experiment with AI and see the job that it can do. And it's interesting seeing some of the pieces of content that it comes up with. Yeah. Some are good and some are just like shit.
I've noticed that.
Yeah. So, because you do it all, how many total clips does it make and how many have you actually been using?
So, based on I end up investing into the Pro plan, but I end up getting the cheapest one, which in USD it's $19, but here it's 30.
Yeah. Yeah,
so I think it's an extra $10. But for me, I put in that investment because I was like, you won't know unless you try. So I done that, and it gives you I think 5 to 6 hours worth of like videos you can put in. Now, if you look at the content that we're putting, it's like over an hour. Yeah. So we can possibly do only like max 5 like episodes per month. And obviously each month you'll pay like $30 like AUD. Yeah. In terms of the amount that you'll get, you'll get probably like 30 to 32. No, 35 actually. 30 to 35 like small pieces of content. Ever since I've been using it for the past 3 like episodes, I've noticed one common like flaw, and it's the fact that like they will automatically create it for you. But I remember one thing, like in the last one I was doing with Michael, you'll notice in the first video that I posted, like he's off frame.
Yeah.
And I left that intentionally. I was like, oh, I want to see if that plays with people's mind. But another reason why I was left like that is because I couldn't actually physically change it.
Yeah.
Because they end up putting automatically the motion. You know how they have those motion tracking thing? Yeah, so they end up putting that feature on automatically. And I'm like, I kind of didn't want that. So there's certain things like that that I'm still navigating through Opus Clips. But I will say it definitely has helped me in not trying to look for it. It gets me to like cut through it, and then it also pieces together like what's the most. They go through like a certain guideline of like, you know, they'll grade in terms of the hook. They'll grade like based on like A B C D E. You know, A being the highest grade, and then the engagement, the trends, and all that stuff. We'll go through that. But I'll be honest, the videos that I've been putting out recently have been from the bottom. Like, so they'll go based on order. So it'll go from like the first one is the highest one.
Yeah.
And then the 30th to 32 is probably not the least engaged, but I've noticed that the one down the bottom have been the good ones.
Yeah.
that have been popping lately.
I'm just thinking about it now because obviously it doesn't pick the bits that you would normally pick.
Yeah.
But I experimented with it myself
nice.
on a piece of solo content.
Yeah, nice.
And I was going through some of the selections and it had like a part of a selection that I would pick, but it didn't have like the full context.
Yeah.
So what I did is I actually used it as a guide and I just highlighted that section, searched it for in the actual clip, and then I added the bits that I want. So instead of going and watching the full episode, because the program that I use, it transcribes everything so I can search by word.
Yeah.
So I go to Opus, put it in there. I find the clips that I think are cool, but it's just missing different parts. And then I search it in my program and it comes up with that full section, and then I can highlight what I want.
Yeah.
So instead of going through it all, it's kind of a little bit of a cheat code to finding content, which I thought came in handy. So then you can still use Opus, but you don't have to use the context because I only got the free version, so you can't edit anything.
Yeah.
So I just used it that way, and that actually helped a lot. So I'm gonna try and use that, just not on my main podcast stuff, but like a lot of my solo stuff that I don't have time to be putting hours into it. So if I can use this tool, which is going to help me, why not, right?
It's definitely saving you time too. Like I've noticed that with myself. Like I was able to save a lot of time and just cutting through. Now, I will say that there are definitely a lot of there's a lot of big nugget like value and information that's in there that they're not really catching. But the way I see the reels, and this is what I've been testing on with Behind the Brand, is you want to entice the audience.
Yeah.
You know, give them a bit of an idea of like, okay, what am I going to get out of this podcast? Like, because at the end of the day, they're exchanging their time, their energy to watch it, especially if it's an hour or like an hour and a half long. And so I'm trying to understand from a audience perspective of like, how can I engage them to get to the video? But I've noticed too that you got to think about the audience themselves. Like, who are we trying to attract? And obviously who we're trying to attract is business owners.
Yep.
And if you think about a business owner's lifestyle, they're not having the time to listen to like an hour and a half, an hour to an hour and a half podcast. So what is it that you can do to still give them value? And if you look at it, they just scored.
Bro, this game's just gone tip
Yeah.
for that, man.
And look at the time, bro. It's like a minute left. Yeah.
Shit.
But yeah, as I was saying, I'm just kind of going through that at the moment and still like doing like a bit of trial and error. But in terms of the reels, I've just noticed that that's probably the best way that we can fall back on to still add value to the consumer.
Yeah.
Which is obviously the business owners. But I've noticed too that there are a few people that are following that do have a business and they're probably potentially wanting to jump on.
Yeah.
So it's just all about, that's kind of been my main focus with the reels. Is like, I'm not looking at it for, yes, it's good to have like the likes and the views and all that stuff. Even like, I haven't even talked about TikTok either, but that's good analytics for us to look at, okay, what is it that the audience are wanting? And just using that as information to grow and look at what's next ahead. Yeah.
Sweet.
So yeah, I just wanted to mention about the reels, like what we're doing well. The reels are definitely working, and I think that's the only thing that we've been doing is just the reels.
Yeah.
Like we haven't done any engagements on like stories yet, and I think for us, what I'm trying to push out there on the social media realm of behind the brand is I'm wanting to give them something that they know that they'll get every single week. And the one thing they're definitely going to get every single week is reels.
Yep.
And just keep that consistent, keep the same thing going. Yeah, we might not be posting much yet, but when we start posting on stories, they know that they'll definitely get reels in every week from every single episode that we do. That's definitely something that's going to be happening.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like the stories, when it comes to, let's say we do something extra, like we might do a vlog later on, like down the road, that's something that's going to be extra, but it's not going to be the thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to focus on the main thing first. Not perfect that, but get consistent with it and have that structure there, which will then allow us to then experiment with different things that we want to play around with. It's been an interesting journey, eh?
Yeah.
And it's gone, what, 4 weeks now?
Yeah.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
It's gone quick.
It's been a month. I remember, it was like, what, the end of February? Yeah, when we done our first one of Rob to where we are now. I'll be honest, I get G'd up every day. Like, whether it's, and like you already mentioned it before, like the energy that I bring in with the episodes and even just making my way to come through to Penrith. Like, I get eager, but not even that. Like, I get eager to post. I get eager to edit the videos and go through it because there's two things on my mind. Number one is I'm in that like trial and error stage of like, trialing it out. And I want to see whether it works or not. Like the ideas that I'm getting or the theories that I've been looking into. But at the same time, I know that there's value that we're getting out of this podcast.
Yeah.
That can make us grow.
Definitely. And I think we come onto the yarn and we speak about what's going on in our journey and behind our brands. Though there's going to be a lot of people out there that have questions about that, and they may be on their own journey themselves and they're questioning themselves, their journey, if they're on the right path, what could they be doing better or what could they be implementing to grow their business or their brand. And yes, listening to each and every podcast, please listen to them all.
Yeah.
But also, I think the yarn could also be a good opportunity for us to answer some questions.
Yeah,
too.
true.
So, like, I feel like we should open it up to the audience. If they have any questions, we can maybe do a segment at the end of the yarn where we can do some audience questions.
Like Q&As.
Yeah, some Q&A. So if you have any business questions, mindset questions, life questions, whatever you have, feel free to drop them, send us a message, put them in the comment section, wherever you put it, we'll find it, and I guess we'll answer it on the next episode. So I think that's a new segment that I've decided to start right now.
Yeah, no. Well, that's the thing. Like, I wanted you to, carry this, and this can be your baby in terms of like the investment that you'll be making behind the brand. Obviously, there's so much other investments that you'll be making, but if there's anything that I want from you, and there's only one thing, which is just you to have something that you can carry.
Yeah.
And if it's a yarn, then sweet, it's a yarn. And then for me, it's like if it's like for this season, if it's for me, like getting the guests in, then I'll do that. And at the end of the day, I look at it now, I definitely can't do it without you. Like I'm learning now. The past 4 weeks, I'm like, bro, if I didn't have Nick, I didn't have the support that he had or that he's been giving, and even just the facilities that you're providing, bro, there is no behind the brand.
Yeah.
There is no Josh being the host. There is no guest coming through. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, bro, because you, as much as, you might not be feeling like you're doing much in terms of like the face, you're definitely doing a lot. And you're definitely helping me out.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that you're doing. So just wanted to publicly and also privately acknowledge that you're definitely helping out, man.
Grateful, bro. And I think that's episode 2 of the yarn, eh?
Yeah, I don't think there was anything else. There was something else I wanted to mention, but it was just like a business lesson that I learned. But we can definitely talk about that later. Just think if there's anything else. Yeah, I just wanted to just have a yarn about what we're doing well. We're gonna finish off with the gratefuls. That's one thing that we're all about.
That's it.
What are you grateful for?
Ooh. Grateful for caffeine, baby.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I am very, very tired today.
You done well, by the way. Like,
Yeah,
and I'm just being honest with you.
I'm
Like,
starting to crash now.
Yeah.
But that's all right. Caffeine got me through today to be able to turn up and do all this content that we've done. But man, what am I grateful for? Truly grateful for is... I think I say this all the time, but I'm always grateful for it. It's just waking up each and every day, man, and being able to do, especially like days like today, being able to do the things that we enjoy, to be able to connect and come together to create behind the brand and have these deep conversations and add value to whoever listens to it, but actually add value to ourselves too. You know, we're going to get a lot more out of this just by sitting here and having these conversations. So, man, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for this beautiful studio. If you want to start a podcast, check out Better Media.
Yep.
If you want some videography, check out TKV, baby.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what are you grateful for?
I'll bring it up. I'll bring the one thing I wanted to share, and I'll just go through like a fast, synopsis of, I guess, what I'm grateful for. I'm actually grateful. It's hard, like thinking of it right now, because I think this whole week I've just been in this like limbo, in this like mixed emotions, because long story short, I had a client fulfillment project that I had ended up doing, and I ended up giving them a lot of extra features, or like extra, things like extra photos, extra videos and stuff. Long story short, they offered me, or they gave me an opportunity to send them an invoice and be like, you can get, like, we'll pay you for it. And I said, oh yeah, that's fine. I'll give them, I'll only charge for the extras that I'm wanting to know that I felt right in charging. So I gave them like an extra 10-ish, like for free. And then I said, I'll just charge extra, like remaining, which I think was like 19 photos. And yeah, cut a long story short, sent the invoice, and then got a rude awakening that, like, I got this long email. By the way, Nick doesn't know.
No.
He doesn't know about this. And the reason why I wanted to do it on this, because this is the reason why I want the yarn session. Because this is like, it's also like therapeutic for me, because I haven't really shared this to anyone other than my fiance. I got an email while I was in Perth, which was like my holiday, and I woke up to, a long email, and it was just, I'm not gonna go into the specifics, because they might be listening to it and stuff. So I got to be real professional. But I was like not really threatened, but I had an integrity check on myself, because a lot of things that they were saying is, you didn't deliver on this, you didn't give us this. Like, they literally stated every little thing, and pretty much what happened after that is, like, the amount that I ended up sending was over $600, like, in terms of like, oh, this is the tax invoice. It was just over that, roughly, and they were shocked. They're like, what? And then everything came out, like every little thing that they were holding back, because you know how they are. Like, oh yeah, thank you for this, thank you for that. We're grateful for this. But little did I know that all the negative things that they were thinking about me all came up in the email, and it was all written. I've literally got physical, like, copies of it, which I'll give it to you later to read. And I just, like, the purpose as to why I'm sharing this is because I learned one thing, and I'm really grateful for this, which is, and I wrote it down, which is protect your reputation at all costs. I could have been either $600 on top right now, and I would have lost my reputation from a client that I probably deemed valuable, or I could have, which I did, is focus on the reputation and give them a full refund. And that was hard because if you look at it financially, you know this yourself. Like when it comes to business, like the reason why you're doing it for business in the first place is money. That's not the end or be all though. Like you got many reasons why you're doing it, but I knew at that time, and I'm just gonna share this publicly. Like when me and Grace were over there, we were broke. Like we had nothing, and I was actually relying on that to be I was gonna get paid that day, and that was gonna be the takeaway out to be like, all right, like I've got money for us to use for Perth, and that was our last day too. And I'll never forget, and it's probably gonna make me cry, but we were at KFC and didn't have money. Like I was gonna pay for like our food, I didn't have money. I just told her I was like, oh, I don't have any money. So I literally protected like the reputation not of myself but of TKV, and I told myself, nah, it's alright. Like I'm not gonna have the refund. Oh, no, I'm gonna go with the refund because I'm gonna go with integrity and I'm gonna go with my due diligence of saying, nah, I'm gonna protect my reputation at all costs. But at the same time too, they didn't get the guarantee that they wanted. They didn't tell me until I disclosed the money, and that was what fed them to be like, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna tell Josh, I'm gonna tell TKV everything, every little thing that they didn't get. And so yeah, I ended up saying, oh, I'll send a full refund, and they didn't send the money anyways. They just kept that, and then I just said, thank you for your services, and I ended up saying to them, oh, on top of that, I'll give you like my premium service for free just to make it up to you. They said no, they ended up finding someone else. I said that's fine. But yeah, the big lesson I wanted to share, which yeah, it's a bit of like a mixed emotion, but I'm really grateful for it that it happened because it really showed to me my true character, my true integrity. I gotta say, bro, it was hard because like yeah, like I didn't get paid until Tuesday night for my Woolies job, and I had a few other clients that are a bit behind on like payments, but at the end of the day, I was like, no, I got to protect my reputation at all costs. So yeah, pretty much. Long story short, that was one thing I was grateful for that it happened because it got a lot of lessons out of me, but it also made me realize like this is the reason why I'm doing it. So yeah.
Well, that's one way to finish off the episode.
Yeah, man, I'm just composing myself right now, but yeah.
The joys of business that no one talks about.
No one talks about this, man, and that's why I wanted to strictly keep it at the end. I didn't even tell Nikki this that I was going to share this, but yeah, that's what happened at Perth. Even at 2, it was meant to be like my rest day off or the week off to like chill out and rest and recuperate. But yeah, that's pretty much what happened. So yeah, grateful, man. I'm grateful that it happened. It's all part of the business journey, and I think the biggest reminder for me was communication's key because there was a bit of like miscommunication along the end, but I think integrity is probably the one thing that I just kept telling myself was like, keep your integrity, Josh. Don't fall back on your character, because that's the one thing that's the only thing that you can rely on right now. Yes, you need money, but at the end of the day, integrity is what's going to keep you going at the end. So yeah, still having mixed emotions now, but I'm holding myself in.
Grateful, man.
Grateful, bro.
That's episode 2 of The Yarn.
Yeah.
Stay tuned the next week.